Uh, Basically, the last video I made, I was talking about the statical distances of points and how hard it is to see individuals because individually, when we're born, there are either magnitude waves that are connected to these different point-like positions in different sectors of space on our planet that either amplify signals in or receive them. Basically, um, I um, so the different atomic times would either indicate different point-like waves that would make different sectors of electrons in our atom-like charges corresponding to the sector that they were accumulated from. It takes 2 points of energies for the point-like charges and ratios for the energy to energy interaction to make the combined energy of the atomic time sector, depending on where we are around the galactic center, right? Obviously, combining magnetic fields, it would be a mapping of a point. So basically, besides talking about the fundamental interactions of energy and trying to find different type of photoelectric effects and or photonic reactions that would make different type of Planck radiation. Um, the vacuums are obviously indications of different types of charges. There are ranges of charges. So charges are continuous. They are like unlimited, this like infinite ranges of light, where the classical electron can be an electrical dynamic, constants of coupling interactions would obviously be the detection. You can freely detect anybody, even if it's just detecting. You never know what the energy bending effect would be like by the vacuum. The vacuum would obviously indicate the energy to energy interactions and electromagnetic interaction of Planck, since the electromagnetic part of free space, so you freely detect and interact with these classical electrodynamic systems, would be an electromagnetic interaction from our heart rates. The wavelengths of the photonic effects, the photoelectric effects, would obviously be different types of internal interpretations that you can only detect with um, your photo tube atomizer and or your penis, right? It's the structure of finding these different types of of gold, I guess, not gold, different types of values of currents, electrical currents that would obviously be measurements of binomial reactions. Different types of measurements make you feel like, it's infinite amounts of ranges of different types of reactions used in high energy photons. Obviously, the primitivity factorizations of using these different types of charge to charge interactions would reflect the relationship between the charges. So, if it's an electric constant, a magnetic constant, a Coulomb constant, speed of light constant, obviously constant gravitational interactions, you would know the light in between both of the charges was a successful interactions of the collision. The fundamental constants of finding these different types of orbital like behaviors. Obviously, the energy bending effect would make different types of behaviors that you probably never really um, came across because it's so intense and immersed from the constant contact. The energy would just be another value of making these magnetic moments, making you align in all of these different ways where you probably would find yourself into this dimensionless quantity of your everyday life because of the high constant value of specific frequencies that you two can only conduct from the photoelectric effects. Finding these different photoelectric effects would be the Planck mass, since the Planck mass would conduct different types of electrical currents from a specific point of a gravitational constant, right? Um, its its particle like interactions would be determined by matching the dimensions of both sides. So since both sides would be matched, it would be dimensionless, and it would also involve dimensions of a physical quantity or mass following the equations. Holding these different types of Planck charges would obviously be the magnitudes that the photoelectric effect ordered as the photoelectric effect over these different types of magnitudes, you would understand you would see the gravitational potential, I guess, from finding these different types of energy to energy ratio like particle like explanations of the energy description of detecting, saying this is a nice ratio quantity of an energy mixture. Combining these two energies would be a potential in your rotation, making these dimensions around the potential of the gravitational orbit from constantly finding the unit mass combination, or the unification of the mass commutation, constantly going through the wavelength in between the potential distances of finding the different types of Plancks. References of these constants of the constants would just indicate the energy to energy interaction. I mean, your brain can only diffract different types of light, no matter if you're smart or small-minded or average or, really rich or intelligent, amazing mind. Energy would obviously indicate energy. Energy would always be an inertial reference. Energy to energy combinations can only determine distance. Distance by time, distance by point, location, and metrics of arriving to the planet by the different magnitude wavelengths that indicated your gravitational quantity. The mass units that we have on the ground are the evolved form of the replications of the system due to the charge to charge interactions of the energy, would obviously indicate the open system or the system available for the charge interaction with the galactic center to make a location due to the active and or the available sources on the ground, which will indicate us. Obviously, we statically distribute from arriving with outside, but also having the host on the ground or the body would indicate the availability of reaching the ground through the hexagonal crystal class of having this universal interaction of the humanoid body or the universal humanoid system. Although the connection to the ground from the available host would obviously indicate the passings of this evolved system. The evolved system would be the harnessed electrons that make the system have magnetic memory from different the quantum magnetic memory to be able to balance and move our system around from the evolution of the system. Obviously, we can only make our magnetic moments and our energy bending effects from where we grow and who we grow up around, and like where our bonds are mostly effective. Our bonds usually indicate our personality and how we end up, basically being who we are today. So the energy bending effects can be in different types of ratios and currents, although from the galactic center, whenever it's strongly bond coupled from distant ratios to universal ratios, the bond coupling or the bond effects can take you to farther distances. No matter the interferences of the ripples of waves on the ground, the bond currents are usually outside coupled. So whenever you find somebody to be around the universal interaction of the coupling, would obviously indicate energy. The energy would be a specific frequency between you two, and obviously would be universal point-like interactions of points. I guess that it would be potential carriers of the point-like contact, since the point-like contact would be a flame. Flame emissions would obviously indicate these type of universal interactions. Even if the dark energy like interactions doesn't really get sustained, it would be a nice branching ratio of the distance from the coupling, or the bond strength for the magnetic moments of the alignment. But alignments are pretty cool. Anybody can have those. But we can talk about the different charges or anything later, since we're all on the ground. We're all universal humanoid systems from the galactic center. Our species, I guess, or the hexagonal crystal class, is specified being a multiple crystal system in the universe. So we're not just humans on Earth, obviously. it's a big universe out there. So I'm sorry if the description was a little lame, but I don't know. Um, I'm open for energy. I'm not an open system. I'm actually a closed system. I tend to orbit different types of electronic structures where it's only alignment based and chemical based. The chemical based structure would be the chemistry that I have to make my electrons spin. Obviously, running in since I would be running in a symmetrical case of the electronic currents that conduct me, the magnitude phases would make me focus different types of wavelengths and patterns where I can successfully get things accomplished because of the symmetries that are around the elements and the symmetries of the point-like distributions that drive me. So since I have these point-like symmetries where it would be a harmonic drives would obviously get us to further distances and nuclear ranges where we can successfully find these points and make solutions to get the ground basically out of these crazy situations that we're around, since the ground's constantly going through the dramatic cases. Have to find somebody to either date or get to know, um, to continuously work on the problems, or the problems are gaining not only from the economy to our economic structure, our trading, our our food, our farming, our atmosphere, lots of things. The storms are basically the basics of our whole foundation on the ground, from buildings to tools to construction to a lot of things that are on the ground that could be affected by the nearby gravitational waves of storms. The storms would obviously indicate the diffractions of everything that we have on the ground. They're obviously going to get stronger because of the rise of the ocean. That would indicate stronger currents of the clouds and storms that we've never really conducted before, because of all of the charge of the water will carry such a large charge. It would be greater than any storm we've had in the past. So in that case, it would just be really interesting to go through. It'd be really great to go through these things with somebody, so we'd be able to survive. But the lack of symmetry, there would be no surviving into these greater storms. So with the access of the acceleration force using technology, it was more of a classical case of finding these different types of dating techniques in our methods to find different types of wave-like interactions to detect or detect each other, to find the classical chemistry to get through the problems of surviving, since survivability is a little more complex whenever you don't have or know anybody. The nuclear weak distance from the ground can be a little distorted, since everybody on the ground would just be restrained from networking and interactions, or bond making. It's basically a bond-only planet from the core, because the core obviously makes all the bonds, made the cellular formations and the electronic configurations in the atmosphere for the different types of formations to be able to conduct different types of or attract different types of charges to the ground. So again, it's a bond-only making planet, and that would make the bonds the only thing that drive, basically. That would give you nuclear interactions, or fundamental forces of nuclear and electromagnetic force, since there are only four fundamental forces. It would be electro weak, electro strong, or nuclear strong, nuclear weak, and electromagnetic force, and gravity. But there's other fundamental forces that are around these central applications of how we can align or anti-align. Obviously, the anti-alignments were the different just different not destructions, but the different deformations around these different groups in gravity waves. So if you'd like to just interact, we can always interact, I guess.